All right. Can you hit
Hey,
that
yes,
lights?
we like the Siamese twins right now.
Welcome back to an original late night podcast. Another episode, another day, another beautiful day, another beautiful evening. Another cold evening.
hmm Hey, everybody.
But yeah, we're thankful to be back. Twins. I don't know, maybe.
Because we're like saying stuff over each other. When it
I think that's like activate podcast mode, kicking into gear. I think we just get excited
That's weird.
when it's time.
It's not weird to you a little bit.
It's not weird because if we weren't excited, then we don't need to be doing it.
But like, what is that? Where does that come from?
The excitement or
Yeah, I
not
guess.
waiting our turn.
Both, I guess.
Um, I don't know. I guess when you know you're supposed to be doing something or when you look forward to doing something, I don't know. I don't know.
Mm. Nonetheless, though,
Or lack of patience.
or that.
If it's us not waiting our turn, talk over each other. But yeah, hopefully everybody out there is doing well. Um, is doing blessed, is doing good. We have an interesting topic tonight, but before we get into that, um,
How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing well. I'm doing thankful. I'm doing cold. Um, but I am interested in seeing where this topic takes us that I just thought of like a couple minutes before we started, but
Oh,
I know I haven't told you about it yet. That's the beauty of this. I get to come up with stuff, but you can too.
yeah, I was getting ready to tell the listeners that, we do it original here, so I have no idea what he's about to say.
They also can't see what you're doing with your hands. But yeah. But how are you? How are you? I'm good. Thank
um,
you for asking.
you know what? I'm good too. I think that is the proper word for today. Just kind of going steady, really. Trying to simplify. Feel like I'm always doing that, but
But trying to simplify.
yeah, just and kind of make sure like staying on the right track with
'Cause-
things because there are, we if you've ever heard the saying where it's like we get like all these ideas throughout the day or like every time you have an idea, you should write it down, whatever, act on it. Maybe like these can be $1 million ideas if you really just do them.
Mhm.
But if you already have something you're supposed to be focused on, but all these ideas are just like constantly coming, sometimes that can be distracting. So,
So what does that affect your mood, your morale, your how you feel? I mean, I'm only asking that because we say how you doing. So
yeah,
it's like
I
now I'm
mean,
interested in knowing how that kind of.
it does affect how I feel because in one breath, it could feel like overwhelming
Mhm.
to know that I have all of these ideas
Mhm.
and I want to implement them. In another breath, it could feel, I don't know, just kind of like sad almost
Yeah.
to know that, like, yeah, there is a focus, but the focus kind of gets drowned out because of all the ideas you're hoping like, okay, well maybe if I keep adding the ideas on top of the ideas on top of the ideas, that what I should be focused on will finally work or like take off or happen.
Yeah. I
Um,
I mean, I kind of think not to say this is like how you feel or whatever, but just speaking to the idea.
mhm,
um, it's like all these, thoughts and ideas might come, and it's almost like they all could like have a life of their own if we give them life.
mhm,
But I think we do have to, like you said, simplify it and realize like it's all a part of this journey, this life that we already have, that we're already on, to the extent that no matter how many ideas we have or end up implementing, it's really just a part of the entire process that this good thing hopefully will come out of, everything that we're putting into life, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Mhm.
So I mean, almost thinking about it like our life is like one big idea, and then we have all these small ideas that might play out as details,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I think, we almost think about it like, well, if I act on this idea, I can become wealthy and do this, and I might be over here in
Yeah.
a different part of the world doing this because of this one idea, and that might be true, but that doesn't mean like you can't have 2, 3, 4 ideas that still are a part of who you are and still carry those ideas out and be you. And you know
Yeah.
what I mean? To simplify it, basically, like you said, it doesn't have to be overwhelming. We just gotta act on what we know is for us.
Mhm.
And I feel like just having patience and trusting the process, and not being in a rush, feeling like you're missing out on an idea by not doing it, or feeling like, you know, you can't
Yeah.
trust the process or the path you're already on. Like, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, that's key. As you were talking, I was literally thinking like, yeah, it's like a test. It does test your patience
Yeah.
too. Um, but every idea does require some like form of being intentional too. So you start, spreading your energy all over the place. That is where all those different, feelings can come in. But nonetheless, I'm
But I feel
good.
that's good. But I feel like I feel like if it's not adding to you, you know what I mean, then whatever energy it requires is probably not even worth it. Like, it should be almost easy. Not saying like every ounce of the process will be easy,
Yeah.
but like, I do feel like if it doesn't work with what you're already doing, it's
Hmm.
probably not, for you. It just might be a good idea. Or maybe it's something that, like you said, you write down and you come back to it.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So what you got for us today?
So I mean, back to how I feel. I said doing code. I'm just not trying to rush it. Trusting the
I
process.
know I just paused because I almost thought for a second that I didn't ask you how you were doing.
No, you did.
Okay,
I'm just
good.
going back to that because I kind of said like what I said, but
All right, that's cool.
since we went a little deeper with yours, I mean, I feel like me saying doing code, like obviously it's cold where we are. It's cold a lot of places right now. But I feel like with being cold, because I said, how does it make you feel? Like, does it affect your mood, morale, or whatever to feel like you got all these ideas, coming? Because we said, how do you feel? You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Or how you doing? Not like, what are you doing?
yeah.
But I'm not trying to tell you how to answer the question. But my point is, so I'm having those thoughts, but I'm like, let me let you answer. But it's like, I could be cold, and how that maybe makes me not only feel, but even how that might affect how that does affect how I go throughout my day. You know what I mean? Like, it's amazing how these external things, or internal if it's thoughts, but it's still external. You're having thoughts based on maybe experiences that you're having.
Yeah.
But these things do literally affect like how we, you know, feel, how we go about our day, like I just said. But so it's cold, and I think it has helped me to focus more over these last couple of days, knowing that like like I'm not about to go just lay out in the sun or ride around with the windows down playing music.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, let me be more intentional with this time. Not to just fill the time up, but I guess I don't know, just to maximize. Like, it's almost like when it's colder, it's kind of quieter. So it's like to maximize the quiet.
Yeah.
When it's quieter, I feel like you can focus more. Some people need music, some people whatever to focus, but regardless of what the background noise you need, it's still like when it's colder, it is quieter. So now you have the decisions, or you have the opportunity to make a decision with what you're gonna do with that quiet, you know, or you just gonna bundle up and wait till it gets warm again.
Hey,
you
if you
know,
smart, you know what they say. Summer bodies are made in the winter.
exactly. So yeah, I'm doing cold. The things that you do in the cold is what I'm trying to do. So
Yeah, that's good.
But I don't know. It's not that deep. I'm just
That's
trying to
good
answer.
stuff, though. How are you, listeners out there, doing? Maybe drop a word in the comments for us to describe how you're feeling.
Well, they just spoke back. They said they're blessed.
Blessed, prosperous, flourishing.
Playful.
No, this is real. Like,
No,
real.
playful is good.
That's good. Okay.
Youthful. So it's kind of, it doesn't mean we have to stay here, but I kind of have, it's like a two-part thing. So you brought up a scripture earlier, and it had to do with, I guess you could say poverty or being poor or the poor. So one question is, I guess, how would we define, being poor? Like, and I don't want to take that, in the wrong direction necessarily, but obviously there's like two sides to many things in life,
Yeah.
So you might be having, like we just said, how you doing today? Might be having a good day, but there is someone who would answer and say, I'm not having a good day, or my day wasn't good, or wasn't the best,
Mm-hmm.
And that could be for different reasons. Two people could have the same or similar experiences and still be affected by it differently. But how would we describe? Hopefully, you understand what I am saying with as we go forward. But how would we describe or define like what it means to be poor or poverty?
Poor or poverty?
I mean, it's kind of yeah.
I feel like they're different a little bit.
Well, dive in.
I gotta ponder a little bit on poverty, but for poor, I feel like poor just means lacking, like in lack.
Yeah.
For example, you just brought up a person not having a good day. So we could say maybe that they had a poor day.
Yeah.
Like something was lacking, some form of peace or happiness, or maybe something that they wanted to happen didn't take place. So not only making poor being a financial thing,
Mm-hmm.
but in simple terms, I think it just means like something is lacking.
I think that's good.
And I think it can directly tie into mindset too.
Yeah, that's good. Not to take over, but perspective, mindset. I mean, like I said before, two people can have a similar experience and view it differently.
Yeah.
So, to your point, I mean, if you lack maybe the ability to make the most out of very little, it might amplify being poor. It doesn't mean that both people experiencing that may not be poor, but one person really is feeling the brunt of that.
Yeah.
Where the other person may be. It doesn't mean that they're not both appreciative or thankful, but at the same time, one person is really like hurting, where the other person maybe is more so optimistic, in the midst of the same situation. But yeah, I think that's good. Like you said, mindset. And even just, I guess, as it pertains to counting your blessings, not to, again, speak to anybody's specific situation, but I guess being poor, I mean, I think we do always have to take account of what we do have, especially when we find ourselves feeling like we're in a position of lack, like you said, because then at least we can see, okay, well, what do we have and where can we go from here? Like, what is there almost to do next? Like, if I'm lacking that, I need to figure out how to get it or figure out why I'm lacking that.
That's true. And I agree with that.
It's almost like an opportunity that we can see through taking that account.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm probably literally about to say what you just said in a different way.
It's fine.
But like the example of is your cup is your cup half empty or is it half full?
Mm-hmm.
Those being two different types of people. And I feel like obviously if you feel like your cup is half empty, you are looking at it with a poor perspective or mindset, like you said, because you're just looking at how much you don't have versus the person who views their cup as half full. They know that they have this much, and even though they can see that there's another half,
Mhm.
they see there's another half that can be filled,
Mhm.
but their mindset is more like, wow, there's so much more room that I could fill these things with. Like they see the opportunity for abundance to come in versus somebody else is just like half full. What am I supposed to do with this?
Yeah.
Um, and probably potentially they won't do anything with it because they'll be afraid that you use it. Like you're not gonna have nothing left.
Yeah. And I say, like, we can say the person viewing the cup as, half empty, they could be looking at it with a poverty mindset or, from a quote unquote poor perspective. We won't say they will because there might be some good reason why to view it that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, as a whole, I think it's healthy if everybody could get on the side of, looking at things half full at
Yeah.
the very least,
Mm-hmm.
because then we know there's more to be had or more to be seen, done, accomplished, more to be appreciated or thankful for or whatever. But at the same time, we know that we're thankful for what we already have. We are able to count our blessings. We're able to, to look around and say, it's not that I have nothing. I may not have everything, but I have all that I need. I might want more, but
Yeah. And I think that's important for us to assess, especially when it comes down to the desires that we have,
yeah.
because because for every person that looks different, like if one person might desire, I don't know, like a lot of friendships or
Mm-hmm.
something like that, another person might desire to be successful in business or, um, obtain like multiple degrees. I'm just trying to think of stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
it could almost be like your version of poor is really just like, well, like I'm poor in this area because the desire that I have says that like I should have all of all of it. Like,
Or what I think I should have already is overshadowing what I already have.
yeah, that's a better way to put it.
Well, it's not a competition, but yeah.
That's what I'm trying to get out.
It's not a competition, but if you view it as half full, the odds of winning are increased.
Yeah.
But so I guess, and we did say poverty, so I guess briefly to briefly touch on poverty, I think poverty is similar to being poor, but I guess maybe poverty is more so even living in such lack,
Mm.
more so
You
than like
said you
just
was
experiencing it.
cold, but you hot
Oh
right
my
now.
God. If you have something, go. And then I'll keep talking, but I just have to.
All right. I mean, just to piggyback off what you're saying,
Mm-hmm.
that's a great way to define it. I feel like there is poor, but then because poor can even be temporary and like changed, whereas poverty kind of kicks in as more so like a habit, or I mean, you put it a great way, like you're living in that
Mm-hmm.
now. So now this is what your environment starts to look like and become.
Yeah.
And as a result, I think now you're really viewing things and situations with a poor perspective.
Yeah. I mean, I think even poverty is something that, you can't blame yourself for being there, but you do have to take accountability, which is like a running theme thread through a lot of our podcasts, episodes. But you might not have, you might not be at fault. You might not be the reason why you're in poverty. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of people who are born in poverty.
Mm-hmm.
They can't blame themselves, but what we can do as people when we find ourselves in any situation is, hold ourselves accountable as to, I guess, just being thankful that we even realize what it is that we would like to see differently or different and work towards those things or
Yeah.
that thing. Start with one thing, Um, and I think that one thing can multiply over time. That energy, though, that effort, that mindset, like you spoke on, like it can expand and it can, gravitate towards, I guess, things, other people, opportunities that can potentially bring you out of that poverty.
Yeah.
But you definitely got to be, optimistic. You definitely have to be able to hold yourself accountable, and you definitely, you got to dream. You got to dream big, but you can't just only dream. But I mean, dreaming is definitely way better than sitting there beating yourself up about it or blaming yourself. You know.
Yeah. And I think we as in whoever, I mean, people don't talk about enough of just the dream aspect of things because that allows us to really tap into like the creativity that we have. And even if you are feeling like certain areas of your life you feel poor in,
Mm-hmm.
if it's relationships, if it's money, if it's what else, some other things. Those are like the two main things. I'm
Health.
thinking of health.
You said money. I was gonna say finances, but it could be resources. So not just money, but it could be career or the way that not just the amount of people but the way that people even, I guess, would come to your rescue in a sense. Like you
Yeah,
might know people, but that doesn't mean like they'll help you in certain situations. Like, so I don't know. I say resources.
those are good things because I mean, essentially, I'm saying like us, like you said, using our ability to dream and
Mhm,
imagine and using that to tap into our creative abilities so
mhm.
that we can, one, start by painting the picture in our mind of how we can go beyond viewing the lack.
Yeah,
Hopefully, I'm saying that right.
oh, that's good. I mean, I think just to clarify, even for those who might be thinking like, oh, well, I'm not creative, like they're thinking about it like art. It's like, I mean, no, I believe we're all creative. The creative ability that you're talking about, that she's talking about, listeners, is something that we all possess. That's how we're able to get up and realize something. Like, not just realize it, meaning it comes to mind or we finally get it. But in a sense, yes, but it's also realizing it, like bringing it to life, bringing it to pass, making it real. Like that's the effort that it takes. I feel like in between having that dream or, having that picture in our imagination and getting to the point of actually like it being real,
Yeah,
the work in between there is the creative work,
yeah,
and the creative work starts with dreaming, but it ends with actually living it. And we
yeah.
created that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It might have been a God given dream, hopefully. Like I pray we all, can walk in our God given dreams, not just something that we make up. But
Yeah,
it being God given is still He gave us creativity too. So we're essentially working with the tools that He gave us and tapping into His creative ability and ultimately, living the life that He
yeah,
gave us the option to live. So don't get stuck, in lack, poverty, even if you have experienced, being poor in any sense of the word, whether it's in a moment, a day, or for however long, it can change, and I believe we believe it will change.
yes.
But to segue from that to the ultimate
Mm-hmm.
topic, so we covered poverty, I guess you can say. Now, what does it mean to be rich in spirit?
Hmm.
So, from a practical standpoint of what we just spoke on to maybe now a more intangible, um, because like I said, we look at there being two sides. So, obviously, the opposite of poor, most people would say rich. Some people would say, well, not rich, wealthy. And you said, well, okay, not just finances having to do with poor or
Yeah,
poverty. So, in the same sense, having to do with being rich does not just come lots of money, you know.
yeah.
That doesn't automatically equal rich. But what about if you're rich in spirit? What does that look like?
Hmm.
What does that mean?
I definitely have to unpack that question on my own, but if I'm giving a whack at answering it right now,
And you don't have to, you can just tell me whatever thoughts and we'll unpack it together. And the listeners will help us unpack it.
I feel like being rich in spirit means to be satisfied with yourself.
And also think about, just as a maybe hint, not really a hint, but think about our conversation that we had earlier too. I mean, the scripture that you shared with me, kind of put me on this train of thought. But yeah, being satisfied with yourself. I mean, I think that's, in a nutshell, that is a very practical way to put it, because what do most people want to achieve in life? Let's see if this is actually true.
uh
What would you say that the average person wants to be in life?
Popular.
The average person wants to be popular?
Baby.
I don't know about that.
Uh,
Maybe the average
Rich.
extrovert.
They want to be rich. Is that
Most
too
people
close?
probably want money.
Happy.
There you go. So those three things probably would be good answers, but I was going for happy. So if the average person wants to be happy, they probably want to be satisfied with them. So that means they're satisfied with themselves. I feel like that's a large part of being happy. I think I guess you could say the feedback you get from other people, or the, you know, interactions that you have with other people even probably would have a lot to do with how happy you can be or that you are. But I
Yeah.
think a large part of that is like looking in the mirror or walking out the door and being happy with yourself. But I think in being satisfied, as you put it, with yourself, I mean, it does really start internally. When we talk about being rich in spirit, it's like there are components to, this life that are not just about what you have on the exterior,
Yeah.
or about the resources you have, that are tangible, so I guess on a deeper, maybe level, um, I guess to take what you said further, I don't know, being satisfied with yourself, even I guess having that conversation with yourself, as simple as saying like, I love you, talking to yourself, like,
Yeah.
can be huge, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but in the form of even maybe not only saying it, but even just taking care of yourself, like giving yourself attention, tending to your needs. It could even be external. It might be cutting your hair, trimming your hair, or washing your face. But it's still, I feel like, the you that lives within knows like you care about you by
Yeah.
doing those things. So it's still like that internal, external, almost like relationship. You can't necessarily have like that external satisfaction without, I feel like, having that internal like communication or relationship, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. But if you have anything to add to that, further with the rich and spirit part,
Um,
I know it's something that we really borderline do got to sit here and think about.
I
But
mean, I think satisfied with self is a simple way to put it because I mean, you said the bulk of it just essentially is starting with ourself, but I guess it's the simple fact that once you're satisfied with yourself, it's like then you can, operate or move a certain way and you even just you realize
what
that
certain way is this that we're speaking of? Because I know we have our lingo.
um
Just for the listeners, what does it mean to move a certain way?
you can I mean, you're just content with moving with being who you are
Yeah, that's good.
and it's not has nothing to do with how perfect you are. This is satisfied with self is like accepting who you are and going with that even through the healing, through the growth processes of life, all of those things. And I think that's a powerful place to be in because that's where your power lies. I think a lot of us or a lot of people are not satisfied with themselves in part because they don't know their value. Like they're waiting for somebody to tell them or give them their value, but we already have value. But if
Mm-hmm.
we don't believe that or we don't see that, then that strips us of the satisfaction of this is who we are and accepting where we are. And like you said, looking ourselves in the mirror, having that talk with ourselves, saying you love yourself, like, do you, or even asking yourself, like, do you genuinely like yourself, even?
Yeah,
Like, I think that's a very important question that we have to ask ourselves. And
that's a tough question. I feel like for a lot of people,
it,
for a
and
human.
yeah, and it's a question that I actually started thinking about like yesterday or so.
Interesting.
Um, I know, right? Because it's a layered question.
Yeah,
It's not just about the aesthetic of things or when we wipe away the fluff. It's like, am I truly satisfied with like me?
yeah,
Like how do we get there? And when we can actually answer that, then we know like rich in spirit because your spirit is who you are.
yeah, yeah. That's good. Well put. Well said. I mean, I think it's funny because for someone who's rich in spirit, and who's essentially satisfied with who they are, or the ultimate, I feel like, desire in life for many or people, if not the average person, being happy. But a lot of people not really understanding what's gonna bring that true happiness. But I think it's funny that when we see somebody who is quote unquote rich in spirit, or satisfied with who they are, we might not be able to put our finger on exactly what it means to be rich in spirit, but like we know when somebody is that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like the funny thing about it is it goes back to you saying like just the whole simplifying things or making things, I guess, more simple in a sense. And I don't want to take that to just mean anything, but even more so as it pertains to how we can be so caught up in all these ideas that might cross our mind. But at the end of the day, it's like, just like in the world, there's many things we can chase, but as far as like what really matters, it's like I said, looking in the mirror saying I love you, or knowing that you should walk in love, or possessing love. Even, I feel like it's just simplifying uh, what our purpose is, I guess, like just being able to put our finger on the few things that really matter, and really being that and expressing that, I feel like
Mm-hmm.
will have us essentially, I guess, just on that road and path to ultimate happiness and joy and fulfillment, more so than chasing all these external things. You know what I mean? So it's like you'll never be fulfilled by like you could never capture everything there is in the world.
Yeah.
So it's like, if the more you have, maybe the happier you'll be. But I mean, what about when it expires or rusts over or breaks or you lose it, or you know what I mean? But the
Mm-hmm.
things that are within, we might not be able to name them all, but I feel like we know when somebody possesses those things.
Yeah.
We might not be able to put our finger on exactly what it is, but I feel like we know it's very simple,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I might not have made it simple, but I think it is that simple when we have that relationship with ourselves, with God, and then essentially with those people closest to us,
Yeah.
that help keep us grounded, help push us forward, help us to walk in our purpose or identify what that even is. But essentially helping us to be rich in spirit,
Yeah.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we can say more, but that was the question. I think the lead up to it with speaking about the other side of it. I mean, I think that's important. That was important just because I mean, we can all chase being rich from a practical sense financially, or even relationally or even in our spiritual lives and who we are, our purpose, whatever. But at the end of the day, we know we all have real experiences that things don't always go our way. And we do have to like sift through those,
Yeah.
times too. But it doesn't mean that we can't, even in the midst of that, maintain like who we really are
Yeah.
and identify, a very wealthy individual in the mirror, even if you are in poverty. Like, don't let that shape your mindset. Don't make that out to be more than what it truly is, and overcomplicate the fact that like what's within you. Nobody can really take that from you. That's God given. That's no price can be put on that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, I think, why it was important to bring it up.
It's good stuff.
Well, I think we've pontificated. I know I pontificated. My bad for pontificating.
Somebody needed it.
But yeah. Well, hopefully y'all got something from that today. Man, we're always excited to sit down and, share what we might be thinking about, praying about. We might have discussed it briefly ourselves earlier, but essentially every time we sit down, y'all get an original late night podcast. So whether you listen to this in the morning or next week, we just ask that you listen and give us some feedback, share it with someone else, like it if you do, and subscribe if you will.
Yes, yes, and yes.
So peace and blessings. Y'all have a good night. We about to go eat.
Good nights. Be blessed.
With a T or ED?
ED.
All right.